Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and today we're going to compare three of the best wireless lavalier systems out there, all of which tied for my 2017 Audio Gear of the Year award. Rode's RODElink Filmmaker Kit, Sony's UWP-LAV and URX dual channel receiver system, and Sennheiser's AVX. Now, since you already know it was a three-way tie, let's use today to explore why that's so. And to do that, let's add in this guy, Panasonic's XLR mic adapter, so we can see how each system works in a two-channel setup. This may not be important to you yet, but it became important to us this year as we ramped up our production of two-person interviews for both our documentary series Mariner East and an increasing number of industry interviews. But before I cut to the chase, let's use the next 2 minutes and 18 seconds, or thereabouts, to hear the three systems in action, stressing them beyond what a reasonable audio person would do. Although I'm talking real-life obstructions, including trees, walls, entire houses, and even the landscape itself as I walk down a hill, just to see where the differences among the systems lie at the margin. Let's take a listen, but you might want to pause here, get a pen and piece of paper, and then hit play again so you can write down which one sounded best to you and what other thoughts you might have had on each. I suppose I should have focus peaking on, but I'm not. I suppose I should have focus peaking on, but I'm not. I suppose I should have focus peaking on, but I'm not. So this is the Panasonic G9, actually, with the Leica 12 to 60 millimeter set at f2.8. So this is the Panasonic G9, actually, with the Leica 12 to 60 millimeter set at f2.8. So this is the Panasonic G9, actually, with the Leica 12 to 60 millimeter set at f2.8. And I've got three lavs on my chest. No dead cats, so if there's any issue, then okay. And I've got three lavs on my chest. No dead cats, so if there's any issue, then okay. And I've got three lavs on my chest. No dead cats, so if there's any issue, then okay. And those three lavs are the Sennheiser AVX, the Sony UWP and URX, the URX being a dual channel receiver, and the Rode Filmmaker Kit. And those three lavs are the AVX, dual channel receiver. And those three lavs are the Sennheiser AVX, the Sony UWP-D11, URX being dual channel, and the Rode Filmmaker Kit. So, which sounded best to you? A, B, or C? Which system held up best over the distance? Second best, last? How much more might you pay for one over the other to get what you want? And, of course, most importantly, which was which? Well, System A was the Sony, System B was the Rode, and System C, the Sennheiser. From my perspective, more on how I arrived at this in a moment, and to my ear, as always, your mileage may vary, I'd say Rode wins on value. Sennheiser wins on innovation, industrial design, compactness, and by a small margin, a personal preference, sound. And Sony wins on radio performance with a close second in sound and ease of use. Let's dig in. First up, the LAV system that I sold my Sennheiser EW100 G2 setup for and pocketed the change, Rode's Filmmaker RODElink Kit. I'd say this is the best of the three for those first moving into wireless. At $400 per LAV kit, they're the least expensive by 1/3 to almost 1/2. But That doesn't mean the Australian company skimps. You get a solid performing Rode lavalier with clip, pop filter, and dead cat, wireless receiver, wireless transmitter body pack, and additional assorted clips, cables, and mounts. What makes the Rode such a value, of course, begins with price and accessories. It is, for example, the only one that comes with a dead cat, unless in the case of Sennheiser you spend another $200 on top of the already $300 more, $700 base price AVX for the upgraded MKE2 mic kit. But it's the Rode's performance in the real world and its elegant simplicity that led me to drop almost $1,000 of my own money for a pair 2 years ago. Let's enumerate the pros. 1. The Rodes are dead simple. There's no futzing around with menu systems and diddly little buttons. There aren't even antennae to get snagged. Once you turn the receiver and body pack on, the receiver's OLED screen confirms they're paired, displays battery strength for each, signal strength between them, and the status, so when they're muted. The system handles all the complexity behind the scenes, arriving prepared and automatically finding the best channel, and then frequency hopping if and when it encounters interference. Changing channels and repairing a transmitter and receiver are cake. Bottom line, they just plain work. Again, no menu diving needed. 2. The Rode is powered by globally ubiquitous AA batteries, so if you run out of juice, it will never be for very long. 3. Like the other two more expensive systems, output is clean and powerful. I had to dial down my GH5 to minus 12 decibels while I set the Rode to 0 attenuation, which is exactly what you want, rather than asking any camera's preamps to do the heavy lifting, though, to be fair, the GH5's preamps are good. You also have the option of attenuating the output by 10 or 20 decibels via a dedicated switch underneath the back cover. All of these systems allow you to adjust output, though the Sennheiser offers an even more generous 30 decibels attenuation in 2 steps, while the Sony allows plus or minus 12 decibels in 3 decibel increments for even more flexibility. Still, the takeaway is the Rode gives you what you need. 4. Again, like the other more expensive systems, Rode also makes sure that cables are lockable. 5. The Filmmaker kits sound great, even if to my ear they don't sound quite as full-bodied as the Sony or Sennheiser when compared directly, which in the end means it doesn't really matter. Downsides? Well, yeah, so let's enumerate them as well. 1. They're big. Biggest of the 3 by a fair margin. 2. The exterior is all plastic, not as robust as the others, though with this said, it hasn't made a difference in 2 years of use. The plastic is well done, the molding's precise. 3. The lav cables are the thinnest of the bunch, and I do wonder how well they will hold up, but hold that thought. 4. There's no headphone jack. Now, this is not necessarily a deal breaker unless you have a camera without one, like our Sony a6300, and maybe not even then, because that's what audio meters are for, and that's what double system recording is for, and that's what HDMI cables are for. Though, if there's interference, you really want to hear it early. 5. And this is a bigger issue from where I sit. You have to remove the receiver from your rig or hot shoe to swap batteries. Ditto for the transmitter. That is, you have to remove it from the talent so you can slide open the back to swap batteries. Kind of like that. No likey. 6. Reliability was an early problem, which I'm delighted to report Rode has since corrected. The Filmmaker kits were great when I first used them, but over time I experienced an intermittent noise, which turned out to be a poor connection design in the original lav cables. To Rode's credit, the company subsequently redesigned the lav cable and replaced both for me at no cost. Really, one of the best customer experiences I've had in this industry. 7. Those internal antennae come at a price. with the Rode, in fact, losing signal first in my artificially brutal test. I say artificial because every manufacturer tells you, and every audio guy knows, non-gender specific term of endearment, that the transmitter and receiver must be line of sight to each other. And in less demanding, yet more realistic situations, including Wi-Fi laden office building, the pair of Rodes I own operate flawlessly. Then again, I'm almost always using them within spitting distance of one another, rarely more than 15 feet or so, and when I veer a little farther afield, maybe up to 50 feet, they've been great. Next up, Sennheiser's AVX. For me, the impetus for exploring the AVX was Panasonic's GH5 with XLR mic adapter in my continuing quest to go smaller and lighter. They seemed a perfect match. And, oh baby, are they? I mean, just look at the AVX setup and compare it to what happens with a pair of Rode receivers, even a pair of the more petite Sony single-channel receivers. Just, wow. I mean, wow. But hold that thought about the Sony single-channel receivers. The AVX is the newest and most expensive of the three systems at $700 per set, 75% more expensive than the Rode, and depending on if you can hit a sale just right, a minimum of 16% dearer than the Sony. But the AVX wears both of those facts on its sleeve. From the custom lithium-ion batteries that allow them to be so small, to the industrial design, fit, finish, and attention to detail throughout, it practically screams Uber system, and you bet I'm worth it. It is truly a brilliant design, and if you own a Panasonic camera that can take the XLR mic adapter, any dedicated video camera with XLR input, or Sony's similar and got there first XLR K2M XLR adapter kit for use with their hybrid cameras, you just can't get a more compact 2-mic setup than the AVX. Well, hold yet another thought, because there is a special case for Sony hybrid cameras like the A6 and A7 series with multi-interface shoe, but we will get to that in a bit. Like the Rode, Sennheiser did away with external wire antennae, relying instead on a relatively small and snag-free, very compact, I really like it, mass design. Again, like Rode, Sennheiser made pairing, in fact, all set up as automated as it can be, including automatic frequency hopping when it detects a problem. It also has the easiest repairing of the three, just buttons, one on each module. But most intriguing of all, an always-on automatic level control that really is at least one generation beyond any auto gain I've ever heard. It works really, really well. Now, I don't know if it's because of the mic or the electronics or both, but the AVX sounds, once again, to me, the best by a small margin over the Sony, a bigger margin over the Rode, though again, in either case, you'd be unlikely to notice, I didn't, until you compare them in direct A/B testing. There are, however, a couple of flies in the AVX ointment beyond that price, so let's enumerate them. First, the batteries prove the adage that a thing's greatest strength can also be its greatest weakness. While the transmitter battery can easily last a full working day, last time I checked the LED, the AVX transmitter still showed 10 hours remaining. The receiver battery is tiny and can give up the ghost little warning unless you're constantly checking. A short press of the on-off check button gives you that 4-bar status with a single red blinking light coming on when you have less than 15 minutes left. This stands in contrast to the Rode and Sony, which constantly show battery status. Much better. More importantly, it takes 4.5 hours to fully charge the body pack transmitter, though you can squeeze a 30% charge in an hour. The receiver can be fully charged in just over an hour, which really doesn't matter because in either case, downtime like that during a shooting day is just unacceptable. So there are two solutions to this problem: extra custom batteries or plug-in power via the micro USB port. I should have mentioned that you can use external power for the Rode as well. Straight up, get an extra set of batteries, because having an external battery connected to either the transmitter or the receiver really defeats the primary value of the AVX, which is its size. Next, latency. Now, I'd heard that latency, the time between the original source of audio and the time it's actually recorded, was an issue with the AVX. But when I looked at the latency specification, blah, 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 it seemed to be within the range of its peers. So I wasn't worried. If you were only using one or two of them with no other mics, and were to use audio to sync in post rather than timecode, which is what I usually do, hey, no big deal. And in fact, I've used the AVX just that way to excellent effect. But sure enough, there it was in my Final Cut Pro 10 timeline. A slight difference between the Rode and Sony on the one hand and the Sennheiser on the other. Is this enough to wave you off? Well, I'd say no, especially since I was able to match the AVX track to the camera's own scratch track by eye using the waveforms. And of course, as I said earlier, there's always audio sync, and the fact that if you're using multiple Sennheisers, they'll have the same latency. So that's kind of that. Finally, performance. As I said a little while ago, the ME2 mic sounded the richest and fullest to my ear with the Sony close behind, but as you've seen and heard yourself, the AVX lost signal within moments of the Rode kit, placing it far behind the Sony. Now, candidly, I expected it to do at least as well as the older Sony, but maybe I shouldn't have been so surprised. I guess there's a reason Sony has stuck with full external antennae, though I'm still surprised that even with the mast, the AVX essentially tied the Rode, which, once more, really doesn't matter all that much under most circumstances, since if you're shooting where the transmitter and receiver remain inside of one another, which, as I said, all manufacturers recommend, and I do, the AVX is a superb option. But when line of sight is not so easy to do, the clear choice is the last but not least time-proven Sony UWP-Lav mic, which for this comparo I paired with Sony's URX-P03D, oy vey, with the naming, dual-channel receiver. So let's talk about the Sony. I switched to the UWP from the Rodes when I realized that the Rodes were giving me intermittent problems, and before I'd learned what the solution was and contacted Rode. That's because the Sony just worked in a more compact, better built, and more accessible package. Yes, the Sony has the fearsome threesome of all electronics, the set plus and minus buttons, all of which intimate a great deal of menu diving. Yes, it has old school wired antennae, which get more and more bent as they inevitably get snagged in one's bag, especially the transmitter. Yes, it falls short of the promise of the multi-interface shoe on my Sony a6300, which is no need for a mic jack, because when you plug it into the MI shoe using the MI adapter, the a6300 switches to auto gain, which definitely does not work as well as the Sennheiser. This in turn has led me to rely on the regular cold shoe mount whenever I use the Sony, plugging the output from the single channel URX-P03, not D, receiver into the camera's mic jack, and reestablishing manual control of the gain. And whether you're talking single or dual channel receiver, the Sonys, unlike the Rode or the Sennheiser, do come with a headphone jack, which gives me extra peace of mind beyond reading the audio meters. In any event, repeat after me, it just works. The signal is strong, strongest by a fair amount. The sound excellent, interference rejection seamless, and the side loading, get 'em anywhere AA battery tray without the need to remove the receiver or body pack whenever you need to replace batteries is so much better than the Rode, and marginally better than the Sennheiser, if only because the Sony uses AA's as opposed to the Sennheiser's custom batteries, although that is really nice. And in reality, I never had to menu dive. Well, Not exactly. Once I got the dual channel URX-P03D, a little larger than the single channel receiver with the added benefit of built-in mixer and port for a third microphone, I did have to menu dive to pair the receiver with both transmitters and to adjust mix levels, which makes it more fiddly than the Panasonic or Sony's own XLR mic adapters, both of which have real dials and switches, but hold that thought, because there's mixing and there's mixing. The Sony kit is well finished and well designed, a little more old school in appearance, but made of metal where it counts, made of plastic where it makes sense. If the AVX screams Uber system, the Sony just kind of nods and says, yeah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, let's get on with it and record some stuff. As well it might, since in its current incarnation, it is the third generation of a product launched more than a decade ago. You can see that Sony has used this time to really hone its offering. I like it a lot. Beyond being the best of the bunch in terms of radio performance, that extra mic input allows you to do something the Rode and Sennheiser don't. Attach a stereo mic for ambient sound in addition to the two lavs. And then the P03D allows you to mix the two. If you have this need, this is way cool. An exceptionally compact, flexible solution. But what the URX dual channel receiver won't do is allow you to mix the lavs, or to put it differently, you can't adjust the volume of each lav independently at the receiver, though you can trim the output of each transmitter. The problems are, one, the adjustment is far coarser on the transmitter than a real dial on a video camera or one of the XLR adapters. Two, it's far less convenient, and most importantly, as a result, you can't mix the two lav signals in real time. This is pretty important if, say, one of the two people on screen simply has a louder or more dynamic presentation than the other, that you haven't figured out until after you've hit the record button. In this regard, easy, real-time precision mixing of two lav inputs, the dual-channel Sony receiver falls behind both the Rode and Sennheiser when those two are used with an XLR mic adapter. Of course, you can always choose to use the Sony UWP-D11 lavs with either Panasonic's or Sony's XLR adapter, or an external audio recorder, sacrificing smaller dimensions for more precise, convenient real-time control, and possibly saving a few bucks in the process. Let me wrap it up this way. As I said at the beginning, if you are new to wireless lavs, I'd point you in the direction of the Rodes. Maybe you pony up for an XLR adapter if you've got a Panasonic or Sony hybrid and definitely need two mics. Or maybe you just use a simple splitter cable and ask your talent to maintain the same loudness. It could happen. Total cost without the XLR adapter for a pair of Rode lavs, $800 plus $5 for the cable. With an adapter, call it about $1,200 for the Panny, $1,300 for or with the Sony. Or, of course, you can always enter the wireless world with a single Filmmaker Kit for $400 and be on your way, knowing that it won't be a throwaway expense. It's really that good. On the other hand, if you're looking for the ultimate in real-time mixing precision and compact dimensions, and or where you can't constantly monitor the audio yourself and don't have a separate audio guy, but have the money for gear, the Sennheiser, matched to one of those XLR adapters, along with an extra set of batteries, even just a splitter cable, because the always-on auto gain control is so good, is compelling. Or, if you already have a dedicated video camera with two XLR outputs or inputs, there's no need for the adapter, and the Sennheiser looks even more attractive at that point. It's practically industrial art, sure, but more pragmatically, it's the smallest of the three audio packages and adds the least incremental weight to your cam by a good amount. And again, that auto level control seems to work in a way, a better way than traditional auto gain. It really is perfect for one-man bands. If you opt for the ME2LAV version I tested in a dual-channel setup rather than the $200 more expensive MKE, which includes dead cat and various screens, you're talking $1,800 with a panny adapter, $1,900 for the Sony, add another $100 for an extra set of batteries, and you're at an even $2,000, almost double the Rode setup. In fact, more than double the Rode setup if you just use a splitter cable. But if you already have that dedicated video cam, already have the adapter, or just let the AVXs do their thing with a splitter cable, you're talking $1,500, including custom batteries. Or if you have a hybrid now and think you might add a dedicated cam with XLR inputs in the future, well, once again, the Sennheiser is just fascinating. In the end, if I didn't have the Rodes and the Sony already, I think I'd probably pony up the extra dough for the AVX. It's that good. But if you want something more compact, more robust, and with fuller sound than the Rodes, which, depending on your point of view, you might actually prefer to even the AVX, easier battery access than the Rode, with cheaper, easier to get batteries than the AVX, the best range, by far. More recording options, including stereo ambient sound, than either the Sennheiser or Rode with XLR adapter can deliver. And don't mind the lack of precise real-time LAV1, LAV2 mixing. Well, the Sony UWP with the URX dual-channel receiver is absolutely the way to go. And a bit of a steal at $1,300 at B&H, because right now they're offering instant $200 savings for the full package. If you have that dedicated video cam, you can get a pair of the Sony LAVs for $1,200 and call it a day, though for an extra $100, I'd spring for the dual channel receiver for the day I needed it. Finally, if you want the best range, excellent sound, which to your ear may in fact be as good or even better than the AVX, with the same precision for real-time mixing, but prefer cheaper and more readily available battery options, want to save a few bucks, and don't care about the flexibility of that third channel for ambient sound, and you have a hybrid camera, then the combo of the UWP LAVs and an XLR adapter is the solution. Call it $1,600 or $1,700, Panny or Sony, depending. So what is the bottom line? Well, with these three systems, you can enter this super high quality wireless LAV space for as little as $400 for a single mic, or go up to $2,000 for an ultra 2-channel setup, and be happy at every single price point combination in between as well. Although, just to be complete, there are a couple of things none of them do. The first is dual recording. This is the ability to simultaneously record two tracks, one say 6 decibels lower than the other, so that if your talent suddenly does raise his or her voice to distorting levels, limiter on or not, there is a second track from which you can work to prevent the blowout, which, it turns out, is something the little $200 TASCAM DR10L does, though Sennheiser would certainly argue that the whole idea of 2 tracks for a single signal is a relic of the past. And I might agree with Sennheiser if you have the budget for their AVX. But the DR10L is not a wireless LAV. It is rather a LAV mic attached to an even smaller body pack than the one that comes with the AVX. The Tascam body pack, in turn, is actually a mono digital audio recorder with up to 32 gigabytes, way more than you need, on a removable micro SD card, and it does have a headphone jack, so you can check sound before you start filming. Very good when you have 1953 GMC truck in the mix. This is an intriguing alternative to consider, especially when miking more than 2 people. It's drastically less expensive on a per mic basis than any of the options I've just reviewed, and that little sucker will record for 10 hours on a single AAA battery. More intriguing is that if you were to use wireless LAVs connected to a field recorder that instead allows dual track recording instead of the DR10Ls, not only would you be spending more on the mics, you'd have to spend more for that recorder because the DR10L's internal dual recording halves the number of channels necessary for individual mics. I think if the DR10Ls had been around when I was looking at the Rodes, although, maybe they were and I wasn't paying attention, I would have given them a hard look, which, if you're especially budget constrained, but are ready to move behind on-camera mics and get to that point as quickly as you can, please, I encourage you to take a look at them as well. And I just saw the white version listed for $139 at B&H. The second thing none of them do is automatic ducking. That is, automatically reducing the gain of one channel or the other, depending on who is the dominant speaker in the moment. This would save me hours of work in post. Please tell me someone is working on this, or guys, if you have a solution, please let me know in the comments section below. Finally, these are not the only wireless lav systems out there, with Chinese manufacturers like Comica and Saramonic very aggressively pricing their kit. I mean, Comica's 2-transmitter, 1 dual-channel receiver kit, the CVM-WM200 is available on Amazon for $390. Saramonic's equivalent, the UWMIC9, also on Amazon, is just $9 more, which makes either one half the price of the Rodes, though I confess I've tried neither one yet. But the real key to audio success is mic placement, and this is no less relevant to lavs, wired or not, than any other kind of mic. I mean, let's get real. You can get great sound with an iPhone and an $80 Rode smartLav plus an Aputure $30 A-Lav taped to your chest. I've done it. But that's another video for another time. I make my head hurt, so I'm going to stop. Special thanks to Sony and B&H for making the URX-P03D and AVX systems available to round out the test. Guys, you rock. Thank you so much. And with that said, if you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation below, share, add to a playlist. Consider supporting our work by using our no-cost-to-you affiliate links, or even making a contribution directly via the PayPal link in the Show More section below. We thank you for it, as always. For 3 Blind Men and an Elephant, I'm Hugh Brownstone. Happy New Year. See you next time.